corner of the street. Down by the corner of the street, where the three roads meet, and the feet of the people as they pass go, tweet, tweet, tweet. Who comes tripping round the corner of the street? One pair of shoes, which are nurses, one pair of slippers, which are purses. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Buckingham Palace. They're changing guard at Buckingham Palace. Christopher Robin went down with Alice. Alice is marrying one of the guard. A soldier's life is terrible hard, says Alice. They're changing guard at Buckingham Palace. Christopher Robin went down with Alice. We saw a guard in a sentry box. One of the sergeants looks after their socks, says Alice. They're changing guards at Buckingham Palace. Christopher Robin went down with Alice. We looked for the king, but he never came. Will God take care of him all the same, says Alice. They're changing guard at Buckingham Palace. Christopher Robin went down with Alice. They're great with parties inside the grounds. I wouldn't be king for £100, says Alice. They're changing guard at Buckingham Palace. Christopher Robin went down with Alice. A face looked out, but it wasn't the king's. He's much too busy singing things, says Alice. They're changing guards at Buckingham Palace. Christopher Robin went down with Alice. Do you think the king knows all about me? Sure too, dear, but it's time for tea, says Alice. Happiness. John had great big waterproof boots on. John had a great big waterproof hat. John had a great big waterproof mackintosh. And that, said John, is that. The christening. What shall I call my dear little dormouse? His eyes are small, but his tail is enormous. I sometimes call him Terrible John, 'cause his tail goes on and on and on. And I sometimes call him Terrible Jack, 'cause his tail goes on to the end of his back. And I sometimes call him Terrible James, 'cause he says he likes me calling him names. But I think I shall call him Jim, 'cause I am so fond of him. Puppy and I. I met a man as I went walking. We got talking, man and I. Where are you going to, man? I said. I said to the man as he went by. Down to the village to get some bread. Will you come with me? No, not I. I met a horse as I went walking. We got talking, horse and I. Where are you going to, horse, today? I said to the horse as he went by. Down to the village to get some hay. Would you come with me? No, not I. I met a woman as I went walking. We got talking, woman and I. Where are you going to, woman, so early? I said to the woman as she went by. Down to the village to get some barley. Will you come with me? No, not I. I met some rabbits as I went walking. We got talking, rabbits and I. Where are you going in your brown fur coats? I said to the rabbits as they went by. Down to the village to get some oats. Will you come with us? No, not I. I met a puppy as I went walking. We got talking, puppy and I. Where are you going this nice fine day? I said to the puppy as he went by. Up in the hills to roll and play. I'll come with you, puppy, said I. Twinkle toes. When the sun shines through the leaves of the apple tree, when the sun makes shadows of the leaves of the apple tree, then I pass on the grass from one leaf to another, from one leaf to its brother. Tiptoe, here I go. The Four Friends. Ernest was an elephant, a great big fellow. Leonard was a lion with a 6-foot tail. George was a goat, and his beard was yellow, and James was a very small snail. Leonard had a stall, and a great big strong one. Ernest had a manger, and its walls were thick. George found a pen, but I think it was the wrong one, and James sat down on a brick. Ernest started trumpeting and cracked his manger. Leonard started roaring and shivered his stall. James gave the huffle of a snail in danger, and nobody heard him at all. Ernest started trumpeting and raised such a rumpus. Leonard started roaring and trying to kick. James went a journey with the goat's new compass, and he reached the end of his brick. Ernest was an elephant and very well intentioned. Leonard was a lion with a brave new tail. George was a goat, as I think I have mentioned, but James was only a snail. Lines and squares. Whenever I walk in London street, I am ever so careful to watch my feet, and I keep in the squares and the masses of bears who wait at the corners all ready to eat. The sillies who tread on the lines of the street go back to their lairs, and I say to them, bears, just look how I'm walking in all of the squares. And the little bears growl to each other, he's mine, as soon as he's silly and steps on a line. And some of the bigger bears try to pretend that they came round the corner to look for a friend. And they try to pretend that nobody cares, whether you walk on the lines or squares. But only the sillies believe their talk. It's ever so important how you walk, and it's ever so jolly to call out, bears, just watch me walking in all of the squares. Brownie. In a corner of the bedroom, in a great big curtain, someone lives behind it, but I don't know who. I think it is a brownie, but I'm not quite certain. Nanny isn't certain too. I looked behind the curtain, but he went so quickly. Brownies never wait to say, how do you do? They wiggle off at once because they're all so tickly. Nanny says they're tickly too. Independence. I never did like. Now take care, dear. I never did want. Hold my hand. I never did think much of. Not up there, dear. It's no good saying it. They don't understand. Nursery chairs. One of the chairs in South America, one of the chairs is a ship at sea. One is a cage for a great big lion, and one is a chair for me. The first chair. When I go up the Amazon, I stop at night and fire a gun to call my faithful band, and Indians in 2s and 3s come silently between the trees and wait for me to land. And if I do not want to play with any Indians today, I simply wave my hand, and then they turn and go away. They always understand. The second chair. I'm a great big lion in a cage, and I often frighten Nanny with a roar. Then I hold her very tight and tell her not to be so frightened, and she doesn't be so frightened anymore. The third chair. When I am in my ship, I see the other ships go sailing by. A sailor leans and calls to me as the ship goes sailing by. Across the sea he leans to me. Above the winds I hear him cry, Is this the way to round the world? He calls as he goes by. The fourth chair. Whenever I sit in a high chair for breakfast or dinner or tea, I try to pretend that it's my chair and that I am a baby of 3. Shall I go off to South America? Shall I put out in my ship to sea? Or get in my cage and be lions and tigers? Or shall I be only me? Market Square. I had a penny, a bright new penny. I took my penny to the market square. I wanted a rabbit, a little brown rabbit, and I looked for a rabbit most everywhere. For I went to the stall where they sold sweet lavender, only a penny for a bunch of lavender. Have you got a rabbit? 'Cause I don't want lavender. But they hadn't got a rabbit, not anywhere there. I had a penny, and I had another penny. I took my pennies to the market square. I did want a rabbit, a little baby rabbit, and I looked for rabbits most everywhere. And I went to the stall where they sold fresh mackerel. Now then, 2 pence for a fresh caught mackerel. Have you got a rabbit? 'Cause I don't like mackerel. But they haven't got a rabbit, not anywhere there. I found a 6-pence, a little white 6-pence. I took it in my hand to the market square. I was buying my rabbit. I do like rabbits. And I looked for my rabbit most everywhere. So I went to the stall where they sold fine saucepans. What up, 6-pence for a saucepan. Could I have a rabbit? 'Cause we got 2 saucepans. But they hadn't got a rabbit, not anywhere there. I had muffin. Nothing. No, I hadn't gotten nothing. So I didn't go down to the market square. But I walked on the common, the old gold common, and I saw little rabbits most everywhere. So I'm sorry for the people who sell fine saucepans. I'm sorry for the people who sell fresh mackerel. I'm sorry for the people who sell sweet lavender, 'cause they haven't got a rabbit, not anywhere there. Daffodilly. She wore her yellow sunbonnet. She wore her greenest gown. She turned to the south wind and curtsied up and down. She turned to the sunlight and shook her yellow head and whispered to her neighbor, "Winter is dead." Water lilies. Where the water lilies go to and fro, rocking in the ripples of the water. Lazy on a leaf lies the lake king's daughter, and the faint winds shake her. Who will come and take her? I will, I will. Keep still, keep still. Sleeping on a leaf lies the lake king's daughter. Then the wind comes skipping to the lilies on the water, and the kind winds wake her. Now who will take her? With a laugh she is slipping through the lilies on the water. Wait, wait, too late, too late. Only the water lilies go to and fro, dipping, dipping, to the ripples of the water. Disobedience. James, Morrison. Whether by George Dupree took great care of his mother, though he was only 3. James said to his mother, "Mother," he said he, "you must never go down to the end of the town if you don't go down with me." James, Morrison's mother, put on a golden gown. James, Morrison's mother, drove to the end of the town. James, Morrison's mother, said to herself, said she, I can get right down to the end of the town and be back in time for tea. King John put up a notice, lost or stolen or strayed. James Morrison mother seems to have been misled. Last seen, wandering vaguely, quite of her own accord. She tried to get down to the end of the town, 40 shillings reward. James Morrison's mother, Morrison, commonly known as Jim, told his older relations not to go blaming him. James said to his mother, "Mother," said he, "you must never go down to the end of the town without consulting me." James Morrison's mother hadn't been heard of since. King John said he was sorry, so did the Queen and Prince. King John, somebody told me, said to a man he knew, "If people go down to the end of the town, well, what can anyone do?" Now then, very softly, JJMM WG do P took great C/O his M star 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 star, though he was only 3. JJ said to his M star 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 M star 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 star. He said he, "You must never go down to the end of the town if you don't go down with me."